What? Sing?
Hello, everybody. This is Nicole and Kate here. Today, we are super excited to address a really cool topic called self-love. What is it? And is self-love selfish? So we're going to address those two main topics here today. So first of all, I wanted to read you the definition, the Webster's definition of self-love. And it says that love of self is an appreciation of one's own worth or virtue. And it begins with us observing our actions and our words with compassion as if we were our own best friend. And really our relationship with ourselves. Because I don't think we can have a really healthy relationship with somebody else until we have a healthy relationship with ourselves. Do you agree with that, Kate?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah. So for me, self-love meant learning. Well, okay, I'll just be straight up honest. I thought I had great confidence and self-esteem growing up. But now that I'm learning about self-compassion and confidence and what healthy people do and how they see themselves, and how trauma affects the way we see ourselves and all these details. Because basically when you're traumatized, you are forced to abandon yourself. And the part of the brain, they've done studies on this, the part of the brain that's responsible for self-identity and self-connection is actually inebriated or turned off. They don't even light up in brain scans because of trauma. In order to survive, we've learned to kind of disassociate emotionally out of ourselves so that we can perform and be at service to everybody else. And so that's what ends up happening. So when I learned that I am valuable and that I do matter because we're born, we matter, then it was easier to start to kind of pay attention to what exactly does that mean and how does that really manifest in my real life. So learning, and the other thing is I had kids really, really early. And I moved out of my house really early. I think I was 18 and 20 when I moved out, and I had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And now my little girl, the middle one, she's 20 and she can't even handle a puppy. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was as young as I was, So, and I knew these little lives required me to keep them alive. So I've just put my head down and did what I had to do so that they would have food, and live. But that required a sacrifice of some sort. So, but I didn't realize that me abandoning myself was something I had already been doing for many years. So, but the cool thing is we don't have to abandon ourselves anymore. We're living in an age of enlightenment, and we can learn a new way of behaving and a new way of living. And our lives do matter, because what happens is your kids grow up, people die, people leave, you get divorced, whatever happens to you, and then you're still left with yourself at the end of the day. So how about for you, Kate? How about your journey getting to kind of the realization that you even needed to take care of yourself or learn about having a relationship with yourself?
Well, I think for me, first I had to go through a grieving period, like I just became very withdrawn, kind of like put my head down, didn't really want to admit to myself that certain things unfolded the way they did. But then like I think some part of me knew that wasn't the way that I was supposed to be. And so I'm not sure exactly how I subconsciously started listening to things on YouTube and stuff that kind of like affirmations and stuff. And even though I couldn't really accept it at the moment, some deeper part of me understood that was the way you're supposed to be. I did like mirror work, I would look in the mirror and like tears would just come down. But over time that stopped, and then to the point where, I did that inner work, and I don't have to I can look in the mirror and smile at myself now. I don't have to be ashamed. I think I started to understand that, um, that my narcissistic partner, like what he was doing wasn't reality, you know? And so I kind of stopped absorbing in all that junk. And then I could kind of slowly rebuild myself, and kind of rebuild my interests, and go hang out and with people and not be judged for who I'm hanging out with or what I'm doing or what I'm getting involved with. And just kind of rediscovering myself. I think that was a little bit of my self-love journey. So I do things now that fulfill me. I'm not doing it out of obligation to appease him or make him happy or really make anybody else happy, because I have responsibility to do what I think I need to do. And so, that's a little bit part of it. So it's been a journey. I mean, I think total, I think I've been separated from him for at least 7 years. So, I've had time to learn how to make the most of my time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And do it for me and not for others.
Yeah. I do think too, so as a survivor of domestic violence, you do struggle with that, right? Of looking at yourself in the mirror and accepting the fact that you don't even recognize yourself anymore. Because usually you look different. For me, I gained weight and I just was sick. I was physically ill. Not to mention, I felt like I allowed my ex to do all of these horrible things to me, and I was still there. And then looking at myself in the mirror was harsh because I had to accept the reality, the fact that I allowed this. I feel like I allowed it.
Right. I think it generates a lot of guilt and shame. I think that's like, it's the core of a lot of it, and I was listening to something the other day, and the biggest issue that people have is they don't feel like they're enough. But that comes from like a lot of the outside mumbo jumbo that we listen to people. And so we have to learn to kind of rebuild that for ourselves. And it is possible, and it takes some time, but it's a journey, definitely a journey.
Yeah. So one of the questions you ask in your self-love journal is about how you see yourself currently. So when you do look in the mirror, what is it that you see? Like, how did you go through that through that self-exploration, self-discovery journey? How did you go about doing that? As far as like, what did that journey look like for you?
Like, hold on one second. Let me look at. So, sorry. So, like, I guess I knew that I needed to be more, and, like at the moment, I can look in the mirror and I have the confidence, but I kind of had to start living my life again, little by little, and just, I had to kind of take some chances, have that conversation with the person, even though I didn't want to, go to that meeting at work, like, just kind of slowly begin to overcome, the thoughts in my head, because it really wasn't what was inside me. It was what I had absorbed from all the outside components. Yeah.
So true. It is so true too. So we do have that inner dialogue going on that is behind the scenes, and if we're quiet enough, we can hear it pop up. For me, it happens when I'm like in the shower or I'm meditating on something I'm doing, like my business or coming up with new ideas for things, and then I'll slowly hear something like, psh, like, who do you think you are that you can do that? Or so really watching, and you said something so key that that's not even the truth, but
Right.
this is somebody else's belief that it's their shame that they've embedded into our subconscious that is popping up by their own issues, right? Because people who love you don't talk down to you. You know, saying a nasty comment about you or your body or your life is not a loving act. So it has to be some kind of some unhealthy parts of their behavior that they're spewing out onto you because they're upset or whatever they're going through at the time, especially for children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really like what you said about having ideas and stuff in the shower, because I do too. It's kind of like we're in that kind of Zen space, you know, we have water flowing over us. It's kind of relaxing. I get the same thing out in nature too when I'm taking walks. But you know, I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse, but I've like I was doing my healing journey a lot on my own. So I had some massive amount of silence. You know, there weren't usually people in my household, you know, so it was just me and my whatever pets I had at the time. I've kind of made a transition on my pets, but you know, it's like I had that time to recover. So I think being alone was actually, even though at the beginning it was kind of it was a kind of a very abrupt shift that, you know, took a little bit of time to get used to, but I had so much quietness, you know, most of the time. You know, at the time I was working in corporate America, so I had, you know, I had people at work that I had to, you know, friends and work that I had to do and communicate with people. But at home and on the weekends, I had just a lot of silence. And I think that was kind of key too. So,
yeah,
does that
because
make
it's
sense?
in that silence that our brains have the ability to,
Right.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Because in that silence is the time when our brains have the ability to kind of, and we do this, we distract ourselves on purpose because we don't want to deal with it, right? We don't want, it's uncomfortable to sit with our feelings and have to really meditate on what's going wrong, which is when you're dealing with a narcissist, that's the reality. It's like, I've got to think about this.
Yeah.
When we spend so much time avoiding thinking about it because we can't handle it. So we disassociate and all of the other things.
Yeah. So like it was a blessing to have that.
But we're more like heal from narcissistic. There we go. So, okay. So do you think that this, do you think that but your childhood had anything to do with that dialogue we talked about? Do you think that those are where those thoughts came from? How do you feel about your childhood and how it affected you as an adult?
You know, that's a good question. So I kind of struggle with understanding that because I came from a fairly like nice, what I consider a nice household. You know, I did have some I'll just say it like generally overbearing relatives. You know, I think a lot of it happens like it's kind of weird because I wasn't like I didn't go without food. I had everything that I needed except for maybe a little bit of validation. You know, I was kind of like it was always black or white, or you needed to do this, or you know, somebody did that and that's the way it was. So I think there was a little bit of unmet need as far as validation. And as a parent myself, you know, and after going through what I've been through, like it's completely actually transformed my parenting skills and the way I parent them, because I don't want my I don't want my ideas forced onto them. I want to give them the room to cultivate their own way of thinking. You know, they don't need to, like, for example, just because my son isn't in college, you know, he's not a bad person. He's not destined to, you know, fail. He's just taking a different route. You know, he's figuring it out, and I'm really proud of him for that. And I'm giving him the space to do that. So I think we kind of need a certain amount of space. But I think in our society, we're very, like, there's some pretty rigid expectations, you know, like a lot of my friends' kids, they're going to college, they know where they're going, you know, that kind of thing. And so I think I think also when we love ourselves, we don't really put those on other people. You know, we don't have a need to. We don't need to judge somebody and say, hey, that's not right. You know, I mean, there's obviously moral right and wrong, but, you know, just because somebody doesn't want to do it your way doesn't make it wrong. It helps you be more open-minded because you're centered in yourself and you're not trying to get everything from other people.
Totally. So, and a lot of people live vicariously through their own kids because it validates them, right?
Yeah.
So when you don't have that problem because you already feel validated within, you don't need your children to make you look good to your peers.
Right.
Because you already feel good inside. You don't need to defend yourself. That's great. So some of the tips we can do to control that inner dialogue, because I really believe this is such an integral part of learning to care about yourself. Because I have clients who struggle with this, right? They have this bad dialogue about their own self going on. I'm so stupid, I'm fat, I'm lazy, I'm ugly, I'm, you know, not good enough. I think on the planet suffers from one variety of that or another, that they're just
Exactly.
not human, is that they need to be accepted and validated and seen as worthy of being part of their community. So learning to change that dialogue to more of a positive content is huge. I do the same thing to myself. Like if I, like I've learned, and I wasn't always this way, but you know, I can have grace with myself and say, so in my mind, when I make a mistake, I still catch myself getting upset about it. And then I go, okay, I made a mistake. I'm human. I'll try to do better next time. You know, I can learn from this and try to shift it from constant negative thinking to um,
more of an endearing type of, you know,
challenge. Are you really stupid? Are you? Yeah.
Yeah. So for example,
More
like,
of a loving dialogue as opposed to
like our abusive people in our life, you know, they've kind of made us think that we're supposed to believe this bad stuff about us, you know, but it's not really, it's not it, you know. And so like
yeah.
I like to use the word reframing, you know. So like as you become more aware of your situation, I think awareness is huge. You know, you have to become more aware of what's going on. You have to really desire a change. You know, some people just like, I forget there's a term, like you can't be sick enough to make sick people well, or well enough to make well people sick. I can't remember the term for that, but like you have to have that desire for you. Like for me, I wanted to be more, like, not only like at the time I wanted to be more for my kids, but you know, as I kind of wound my way out of this, you know, that trap that they make you feel like you're in,
Right.
you know, I discovered like, yeah, I want to do this for me too.
Right.
So, you know, I think there's a beauty about having kids, even though it's an enormous responsibility, but you know, there's a purpose. And, you know, as you said before, I think a lot of us live vicariously through our kids. But, you know, had I not had kids, I don't know where I would be right now, because at the time of my separation, you know, it's like I've always done things for them. So it's like it was ingrained in my head. And, you know, that ingrained thought was like, okay, you just have to survive so you can be more for them when things clear up. And then as I started to feel better, I was like, hey, you know, I'm still here. I can still enjoy life and I should be enjoying life.
Right. So true.
Yeah.
Now, going back really quick to the shame that the perpetrator intentionally degrades us on purpose to keep us down, right? Because the lower you feel, the more controllable you are. So, and this even happens long before, usually in our for me, it was definitely part of my childhood, but not everybody has that reality. Like you're not one of those people who was degraded and put down. So, but that is what the perpetrator does to keep your self-esteem at bay. Because ultimately, another thing I had to learn was to stand up for myself. I used to stand up for other people easily.
Right.
Like if I watched someone bully somebody else, I would get irate and like totally try to be there for the other, like totally defend this other person. So I had to make a shift in my view and go, well, whoa, what about you? Like, so it's our responsibility to stand up for ourselves as well. As I believe in doing what is right. So, but what about what's right for you too? You know, we always do what's right for our children and other people. We have to learn that it's totally healthy to want to stick up for yourself and normal, but you want to do it in a healthy way, which is not what the narcissist does.
Yeah, and then as you do that, you actually become more for other people, you know. So had I not taken the time or had the desire to change, you know, it's like I don't think I could be present for my kids like I am, you know.
Right.
And it's another long story, but like I know how to stand my own. You know, and yeah, it's like the transformation it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I've been on it for a while, and you know, I can't say that it's like 100% or anything, or it ever will be, but you know, when you make a decision to change and you start to do it and you do start to value yourself, then you I mean, just things will fall into place. They
Right.
really do.
So do you think that self-love is selfish?
I do not. I think it's essential.
Yeah.
Because if we can't, then like, you know, I won't touch upon this too much because it's a whole different topic. But if you can't value yourself, you can't teach the outside world and how you want to be treated, and that's kind of in the like the boundaries issue, you
Right.
know. But it's like that's where it begins when you start to value yourself. You know, it's like, okay, that narcissist, he can't, you know, like you have an awareness and it's like, okay, you stop that. Like, and you don't even let it escalate. Does that make sense? You know, you value yourself so that
Yeah.
you you learn how to relate to other people in the way that you really want to be, you know.
Right. Yeah. And you're secure in yourself so that when other people say something that puts you down, you can reject that idea because you know it's not true about you. You're
Right,
well
and there's
aware.
a way of confidence too. So when
Yeah.
you're confident and you don't need to give in to that person for, you know, example,
Yeah.
like if a relative came to ask for money, like, you know, like, oh, I don't have that. I don't, and you don't feel obligated to do it.
Yeah. For me, I feel like selfish people are willing to sacrifice other people in order to get their desires met. That to me is the definition of being super selfish. If you're willing to sacrifice the happiness or the love or the needs of another person, they basically throw other people under the bus just to have what they want, you know. And that's how it's like that's how you know that it's not loving. It's not even loving to themselves, because being a jerk is not going to make you happy. It makes you very unhappy, and it's the wrong thing to do, right? So when somebody puts like these guys and women put their children last on the totem pole to them, and they know that they suffer and they have horrible consequences, and they don't care. It's like, I want what I want, and it doesn't matter about you or your feelings or what you're going through. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about bettering ourselves, taking care of ourselves so that we're able to be even better to those that we love around us, to give everyone the better version of ourselves. Instead of, at school they taught, you want to take good care of your body and yourself so that you can be the A+ version of yourself and not the D version for your children and family, right?
Right.
But a narcissist is willing to sacrifice you in order to get their needs, their wants and needs. And it's usually small things. They don't even care. It doesn't have to be that important to them, but you can go down and take it out for something minute, and it's fine. That's how grotesque it is. So, well, this has been very cool. We will do more on these because this is a huge topic. So we could talk about self-discovery. We can talk about compassion. We could talk about gratitude and all the beautiful ways that we could do it, but then we'd be here all day. So what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll do another episode on this particular topic. So stay tuned. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.